in the finest of style. The very first ocean liner that they had was made out of wood, 207 feet long. It had 3 masts. It operated with sails. It also had a Fulton steam engine where you take the coal, throw it into the fire to heat water, to create the steam, to turn 2 mighty paddle wheels on each side of the ship. It's called the Britannia. And that modern marvel of 1840 could cross the Atlantic in half the time anything else could. 110 passengers traveled on that ship, crossing the Atlantic in a matter of 2 weeks. Wow. 110 passengers. Might I add, very grumpy passengers. These passengers couldn't get out onto the outer decks because the ship wasn't that big, and the water would be very ferocious, and a wave could knock them overboard. So, for the most part, they stayed down below. They had to entertain themselves. They were also grumpy because they did not eat that well. Refrigeration wouldn't be around for another 40 years. Ooh. So the food that they had, a lot of oats, a lot of cereals. The meat for the supper stew, right, was kept in brine, so it was very salty. Now, potatoes for the stew, very easy to keep on board a ship. You just take the burlap bag and you hang it on a hook. Just keep it air dry, and it should stay for about 2 weeks. You might have to cut around some of the deteriorating parts of some of the outer potatoes. But other than that, A-okay. What about the rest of the vegetables? What did they do? Well, they had to take lessons from the British Navy. And they would store the vegetables like cabbage and peas and carrots in barrels that were airtight. And they had a lever at the bottom of the barrel that would open up a trapdoor, and produce would drop into a bucket or a box. So you could take it up to the carton station, chop it up, and prepare it for the stew. They would allow a little air at the top of the barrel, and that would cause the vegetables at the top of the barrel to decay. You know, when you go away from your home for a few days and you come back and you open that vegetable crisper in your refrigerator and you see a science experiment in there? Oh, come on, we've all had that, right? Well, here's the science lesson. From that interior vegetation comes a gas called methane, or in the UK they call it methane. And it causes a reaction with the air inside that sealed compartment, like a vacuum. So it kind of vacuum packs the produce, absorbs the air, and it preserves the produce below it. And now you know where the term scraping from the bottom of the barrel comes from. Because that sludge would go at the bottom, and then you'd have to scrape it to clean it up to put the next batch of produce. Now, on board those ships, they also had habitations for cows, for fresh milk, habitations for chicken, for fresh eggs. But for 2 weeks, that was the only fresh food you got. As the years move on, the ships get bigger. They get faster. They start transporting more people. Around the turn of the century, we switched from wood to steel. And ships like the Olympic, the Titanic, or the Lusitania, the Mauretania, the Aquitania. Much, much bigger. Made out of steel. Much, much faster. The Olympic and the Lusitania can cross the Atlantic at 25 nautical miles per hour. So you would book a 2-week round trip. Was that 2 weeks across? You can make it 2 weeks all the way around. Not bad. By the time the Queen Mary comes around, which is 96 years after the Britannia, our construction began 96 years later, and it took her 6 years to get finished. We could transport 2,000 passengers in 4.5 to 5 days across the Atlantic, 10-day round trip. And I hate to tell you, folks, but we have reports that the average first-class passenger gained 14 pounds on a round trip. Boy, did they eat well. Now, the business model of Cunard was you have a ship on one side of the Atlantic and a ship at the other side of the Atlantic. You fill it up with the mail, you fill it up with the passengers, the crew, and 2 floating cities would cross the Atlantic. After the Second World War, 1948, we had the Queen Mary on one side, we had the sister ship, the Elizabeth, on the other side, and that's how they did it. Then in 1960, the world changed the way it traveled. We entered the jet age. All of a sudden, for the same amount of fare, you could fly across the Atlantic in 6 or 7 hours. Time was money back then. All of a sudden, the Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth were leaving port with maybe 25% occupancy. Cunard was feeling a financial crunch. So they had to make a business decision. The Queen Mary and the Queen Elizabeth were getting a bit old, so they didn't have the heart to scrap them out. They were going to auction them off. But in the meantime, they had to produce something new. And this is what they produced right here. This is a model of the Queen Elizabeth II. This is the ship that saved Cunard. Ladies and gentlemen, had this plan not worked, they would not be in business today. They designed this ship, and on October the 31st, she takes off on her maiden voyage, and the Queen Mary comes to Long Beach. We won the bid for $3,450,000. And the Queen Mary sails to Long Beach on her final 9-day cruise. So this took over the job of 2 ships. And it worked. And then the Queen Mary travels, she leaves Southampton, she goes to Lisbon, Portugal, then down to the Canary Islands, down to Rio de Janeiro, where the Olympics were last summer, around the tip of South America because she's too wide to fit through the Panama Canal. So she had several stops along the South American coast on each ocean, and a stop in Panama just to say hello, a stop in Libertad, El Salvador, a stop in Acapulco, Mexico, and finally on December the 2nd, 1967, she gets here in Long Beach. The cost of the fare of a one-way ticket on the final voyage of the Queen Mary was $1,500. By today's standards, you would think such a deal. But back in those days, $1,500 would get you a brand spanking new Volkswagen Beetle. The dollar went much farther in those days. So ladies and gentlemen, it was the party of the parties, the last hurrah. And what a voyage, such an adventure. The Queen Mary gets to Long Beach, and the Captain John Treasure Jones orders finished with the engines. And the Queen Mary's engines are shut down for the very last time. He signs the ship over to the city of Long Beach, and then a few days later, a few days later, anybody here grow up listening to the music of Petula Clark? Don't Sleep in the Subway, right downtown? She flew to Los Angeles, and she did a special on NBC. There was absolutely no power on the ship. I don't know how they got power to do the video. I mean, she's doing music and singing songs, and they're walking around the ship in total darkness with the lights and flashlights, but it was a great special. You can see it on YouTube. And then after that, she goes over there to the Long Beach Naval Shipyard and a place called Todd Shipyard. And they put her into a dry dock. They close the doors, they seal it, and they pump the water out. And the ship, as the water is being pumped out of the dry dock, she settles on massive cradles. And the work begins to convert this ship from an ocean liner to a floating building. Workers assemble at the top of the ship, and with torches, they cut around every smokestack. And the smokestacks were craned off the ship and moved down to a work dock. And when they touched the work dock, they crumbled under their own weight. 31 years of rust. They found out that the only thing that was holding them to the ship were the massive layers of paint. Every time she went into Southampton, she got a fresh paint job in a portion of the ship. So the ship was always looking Bristol like new. So what we have up there right now are reasonable facsimiles. What they needed to do was they needed to send work crews down those openings, right? To strip the ship of her power, to cut out every single boiler. There were 27 boilers on this ship, 2 to heater, 25 to propeller, to create the 170,000 horsepower needed to get the ship across the Atlantic. 27 boilers, gone. 1 engine room, gone. 4 propellers, you need 4 turbine systems, right? This area that we're standing here is about the size of just the turbine. You also need a main reduction gear and a thrust unit. So we had 2 engine rooms, and 1 engine room was removed. And the other engine room is available so you can walk through it. 3 of the 4 propellers were removed. 2 are in the parking lot, 1's at the Maritime Museum. The other propeller is on the ship, and we constructed a steel box around it, and it's sitting in a freshwater pool. And you can walk around it and see how impressive it is. Ladies and gentlemen, the ship process from an ocean liner to a floating building takes 5 years. In 1971, she opens here, she's towed back here, and opens up as a hotel, an event center, a floating museum, a fun place to hang out. And 1 million guests come and visit her every year. And it's just a pleasure to meet every single one of you. The Army Corps of Engineers put in this rock wall over here around the ship to protect her from the waves. Now we have a rock wall out there 1 mile out that goes 9 miles from Cabrillo to the east end of the Federal Breakwater, and this is a protected harbor. And then this additional rock wall here protects the ship from any waves coming through here. So we're very stable. Also, there are some conduits underneath those rock walls. So water can circulate in here and stay clean. And fish come in through those. And in the morning, our hotel guests walk around the ship and they can see schools of fish. 1 year, a shark, a baby shark, swam through the conduit, started eating some of the fish in here, and grew so large he couldn't fit through the conduit to get out. So for about 10 years, we had a pet shark circling the Queen Mary. His name was Bruce. Yeah. So today, Cunard is still in business. They have 3 beautiful ocean liners in the fleet. The Queen Mary II, the Queen Elizabeth, which I don't have a model of, and that's the Queen Victoria. And these 3 ships still do the traditional Southampton to New York run, at least once a year. And then they also service other ports of call. I am saving my money for the best ride that you can get on one of these. I want to get a ticket for the Queen Mary II. It's only $30,000. Don't tell my wife I can't afford 2 tickets. For that, you get oceanfront accommodations. You get to live aboard for an entire 6-month period. And you see the world. Not bad when you consider the ports of call. Over here on this side of the smokestack, there's a horn, which actually came from our ship. The middle smokestack had a horn. We packed it up, we sent it to Cunard. They assembled it on here. The only thing they did with that horn was they painted it black. So a little of our voice is still heard on the high seas. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a walk back through time and space. If I could have everybody walk onto this side of the room, we'll walk down on this side of the display cases. You can see what some of these classic ocean liners looked like back in the days long gone. The first ocean liner here is the RMS. Excuse me, folks. This is the RMS Lusitania.